We all have goals. Some are small, drink more water, read more books. Some are massive, start a business, run a marathon, change the world. But what separates the people who achieve their goals from those who just talk about them? It's not talent. It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's structure. It's structure. It's intention. It's clarity. Let's walk through 5 steps to achieve any goal. Not just dream about it, not just plan it, but achieve it. Step 1. Start with why don't chase goals because they look good on paper. Chase them because they mean something to you. Purpose is the fuel that keeps you moving when motivation fades. Your why isn't clear, your effort will scatter. But when you're anchored in purpose, nothing can pull you off course. Step 2. Make it visible what you see consistently becomes part of your reality. Write the goal down. Put it on your wall. Say it out loud every morning. If your goal only lives in your mind, it's too easy to forget. Make it real. Make it physical. Make it a part of your environment. Step 3. Break it down. Big goals overwhelm people, not because they're impossible, but because they're not broken down. Don't try to climb the entire mountain in one day. Take one step, then another. A goal is just a series of small, measurable wins stacked together. Turn the mountain into manageable stones. Step 4. Build habits. Not hype motivation gets you started, but habits keep you going. Design daily behaviors that push you forward. Want to write a book? Start with 100 words a day. Want to get fit? Start with 10 minutes of movement. Consistency compounds. Over time, small efforts create massive momentum. Step 5. Review and adjust. Every journey needs reflection. Dobry, or you moving? Are you stuck? Be honest. Celebrate the progress. Learn from the detours. And if something isn't working, pivot. Don't quit. The path might change, but the purpose remains. When we talk about goals, most people focus on the what they want to achieve, what they need to do, what success looks like. But the real fuel behind any lasting achievement is not the what, it's the why. Purpose is the invisible engine that drives action. It's not always loud or dramatic, but it's the reason you get back up when you fall, the reason you keep going when the excitement fades, and the reason you start in the first place. When your actions are rooted in a clear and deeply personal purpose, you operate differently. You stop chasing external validation and start aligning your efforts with something internal, something that actually matters to you. This creates emotional energy, and emotional energy is more powerful than logic or routine. Purpose doesn't just motivate you, it sustains you. It's the difference between dragging yourself through a task and showing up with intention and clarity, even when the work is hard. People who operate without purpose often burn out quickly. They start with excitement, but when they hit obstacles, which they always will, they begin to question everything. The goal no longer feels worth the pain because it was never tied to something meaningful. On the other hand, when your purpose is clear, challenges become stepping stones rather than stop signs. You may get tired, but you won't give up. You may feel pressure, but you won't collapse. Because there's something bigger pulling you forward. Purpose also gives your efforts direction. It simplifies your choices. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you begin to filter decisions through a powerful lens. Does this align with why I'm doing this in the first place? That kind of focus is rare, and rare focus leads to rare results. You stop wasting energy on distractions and start doubling down on what really moves the needle. More than anything, purpose connects your work to your identity. You stop seeing your goals as tasks and start seeing them as extensions of who you are. And when something becomes part of who you are, quitting is no longer an option. It simply doesn't make sense. That's the strength of purpose. It doesn't make the path easier, but it does make it clearer. And clarity is where all effective action begins. One of the most overlooked tools in achieving any goal is the environment you create around it. What we consistently see, hear, and interact with directly shapes our mindset, behavior, and focus. Visual cues aren't just reminders, they are triggers. They signal to your brain what matters, what deserves attention, and where to direct your energy. When you make your goals visible, you're not just stating an intention. You're reinforcing a commitment every single day. Think about how often people write down goals once, close the notebook, and never see them again. That goal slowly fades from memory, replaced by daily noise and distractions. But if that goal is staring at you every morning on your wall, on your mirror, on your phone lock screen, it becomes harder to ignore. It becomes a part of your daily landscape. And the more familiar it becomes, the more likely it is to influence your decisions and actions. Visual cues build accountability without needing external pressure. A sticky note on your computer that says, "I'll make progress," not excuses, may seem small, but it's a daily nudge toward discipline. A vision board in your bedroom isn't just decoration. It's a constant reminder of where you're headed. These cues activate your subconscious and shift your mental state into alignment with your goal. They transform the abstract into the tangible. When your environment reflects your aspirations, your actions follow suit. Surrounding yourself with images, words, and symbols tied to your goal creates what psychologists call environmental reinforcement. You no longer have to rely entirely on willpower, because your surroundings start doing some of the work for you. So, it's a silent form of support, but one that's always present. Even the simple act of tracking progress visually, a calendar with daily check marks, a journal with milestones, a chart with upward movement, can dramatically increase commitment. Why? Because it builds a visual story of momentum. And momentum is a powerful motivator. In a world full of distractions, what you choose to see shapes what you choose to become. Visual cues may seem simple, but they hold immense power. They shift your goal from a passing thought to a persistent presence. And when your goal stays visible, it stays alive. Most people fail to reach their goals not because they lack ambition, but because they expect progress to happen all at once. They imagine a dramatic transformation, a big leap that will change everything overnight. But real growth rarely works that way. It happens in increments, not explosions. Small, consistent steps are what move you forward, while chasing massive changes all at once often leads to burnout, frustration, and eventually giving up. When a goal feels too big, it becomes intimidating. It creates pressure. You start to think about all the things that could go wrong, how far you still have to go, and how impossible it feels from where you are. That overwhelm is what causes paralysis. You end up doing nothing, not because you don't care, but because you don't know where to begin. The solution isn't to lower the goal, it's to break it down. A big leap might get attention, but small steps build progress. Writing a book doesn't start with a chapter. It starts with a sentence. Getting fit doesn't begin with a 2-hour workout. It starts with 5 minutes of movement. Launching a business doesn't begin with perfection. It starts with one decision, one task, one customer. When you focus on the next small action, not the entire mountain, you regain control. And with control comes confidence. Small steps also create sustainability. Anyone can sprint for a day, but few can run a marathon without training. Daily effort, even when it feels slow, builds discipline and resilience. Over time, these small efforts compound. What felt insignificant in the beginning becomes the foundation of massive results. And the best part? Each small win gives you proof. Proof that you're capable. Proof that you're moving. So, proof that it's working. Progress isn't always visible right away, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. Like planting seeds, the results of your small actions take time to surface. But if you keep watering, keep showing up, growth becomes inevitable. And when you look back, you'll see that it wasn't a single leap that changed your life. It was the hundreds of small steps you were brave enough to take, even when no one was watching. Motivation is powerful, but it's also unpredictable. It comes and goes, often arriving in bursts that feel inspiring but quickly fade. If you're relying on motivation to achieve your goals, you're gambling with your progress. Some days you'll feel fired up, and other days you'll feel stuck or unmotivated. The truth is, success isn't built on how motivated you feel. It's built on what you do when you're not motivated. That's where habits come in. Habits are the systems that keep you consistent. They don't rely on emotion. They don't ask how you feel. They're rooted in behavior, routine, and repetition. Once formed, a habit removes the need for decision-making. You don't have to ask yourself, should I work out today? Or should I write? You just do it because it's part of who you are now. This automatic nature of habits makes them incredibly powerful for long-term goals. When you build habits around your goals, you're creating a structure that carries you through the ups and downs. You may not always feel like taking action, but the habit does the heavy lifting. It's easier to stay on track because the action is wired into your daily life. The emotional roller coaster that motivation brings becomes less important because you're no longer dependent on it to move forward. Habits also compound over time. A small habit repeated daily produces far greater results than a big burst of motivation followed by inaction. Writing 100 words a day may not seem like much, but do it for a year and you've written a book. 10 minutes of daily exercise may feel small, but over months it transforms your body and mindset. These small routines, when done consistently, build real momentum. What's more, habits shape identity. When you consistently act in a certain way, you start to see yourself differently. You no longer just write, you become a writer. You don't just exercise, you become someone who values health. Identity change rooted in action is far more lasting than a temporary motivational high. And once you see yourself through the lens of your habits, quitting becomes harder. The behavior becomes part of who you are. In the end, it's not the days you feel motivated that define your success, it's the days you show up regardless. Habits give you that power. They take you from inspired to unstoppable. No matter how carefully you plan, no matter how clear your vision is, things won't always go as expected. Life is unpredictable, and the path to any meaningful goal is rarely straight. That's why the ability to course correct is so essential. It's not about always being right. It's about being willing to adjust when you're wrong. It's not about sticking to the original plan, no matter what. It's about recognizing when that plan no longer serves you. People often associate changing direction with failure, but it's the opposite. Course correction is a sign of awareness, maturity, and commitment. It means you care enough about the goal to stay aligned with it, even if that means letting go of the methods that aren't working. Stubbornly sticking to a broken process doesn't make you dedicated, it makes you stuck. Flexibility is not weakness, it's strategy. The process of achieving a goal should be dynamic. What worked at the beginning might not work 6 months in. Priorities may shift. Your environment may change, and your understanding may deepen. If you're unwilling to adapt, you risk drifting further from your target even while you're working hard. Hard work alone isn't enough if it's being applied in the wrong direction. Every so often, you need to pause, look up, and ask, am I still on the right track? Reviewing your progress regularly allows you to spot patterns, mistakes, and opportunities. It gives you space to ask honest questions. Is this method getting results? Is this pace sustainable? Is my goal still meaningful to me? Without this kind of reflection, it's easy to stay busy while getting nowhere. But when you take time to step back, you give yourself a chance to make smarter moves. Course correction also builds resilience. When you learn to adjust instead of collapse, you build a mindset that's ready for challenges. You stop fearing failure because you no longer see it as final. It becomes feedback, not defeat. And that shift in perspective gives you an edge. It allows you to keep moving forward, even if the path changes shape. In the pursuit of any meaningful goal, it's not just about how fast you go. It's about how often you're willing to stop, assess, and steer in a better direction. Here's how progress becomes intentional, not accidental. Waiting for the perfect moment is one of the biggest traps in goal setting. We tell ourselves we'll start when we're ready, when the timing is right, when we feel more confident, when life gets less busy. But perfection is a moving target. It never really arrives. The truth is, most people never start not because they're incapable, but because they're waiting to feel fully prepared. And that moment of perfect readiness rarely comes. Success doesn't come from perfect beginnings. It comes from starting where you are with what you have and figuring things out along the way. Action is the antidote to fear and doubt. Once you start, even clumsily, the process teaches you more than any amount of overthinking or planning ever could. You gain experience, you build momentum. And most importantly, you learn what works and what doesn't by doing, not just imagining. The idea that everything must be in place before you take the first step is a myth. Every great achievement began imperfectly. Writers started with bad drafts. Entrepreneurs launched with flaws. Athletes trained with awkward form. Nobody begins as an expert. Progress is messy in the beginning. But momentum doesn't require perfection. It only requires movement. Starting now means trusting that growth will come with effort. You don't need all the answers. You just need the courage to try. The first step might be small or uncertain, but it breaks the cycle of hesitation. It transforms thought into action. Even if you stumble, you're further ahead than you were before. And with each step, your skills sharpen, your clarity improves, and your confidence grows. Not from waiting, but from showing up. There will always be doubts. There will always be things you don't know. But starting now, even in an imperfect way, sends a powerful message to yourself. You're done waiting, you're done hiding behind excuses, you're ready to begin, ready to learn, and ready to grow. That mindset creates internal momentum. It builds discipline. It strengthens identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to and start seeing yourself as someone who does. Perfection is paralyzing. Action is liberating. If you wait for everything to be perfect, you'll wait forever. You'll wait forever. But if you start now, even imperfectly, you open the door to everything you've been hoping to achieve. So don't wait for the stars to align or for the fear to disappear. Don't wait until you feel completely ready, because readiness is a byproduct of doing, not thinking. Start now with your doubts, with your questions, with your imperfect tools. The road will not be but it will be yours. Each step you take builds clarity, strength, and momentum. Progress doesn't belong to the perfect, it belongs to the persistent. Today is your starting line. Take the first step and let action lead the way.